Hey friends, Red Specs Gaming here, and we're back here in our Ars Nouveau test world because we went over the basic mechanics of this mod in a previous video, link in the description below to that one. But I figured today we should cover some of the more advanced topics in Ars Nouveau, and specifically as it comes to automation and the entities you would use to automate things. There's a lot of really cool little tricks you can do with Ars Nouveau as far as that goes, and I thought we should spend a video and go over some of that. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to talk about is automating source production. That's the mana equivalent basically in this pack. And we talked in the last video about how growth ticks can be collected as source into an ergonomic source link, which would then store into these jars. But the problem with that is that it only works during growth ticks. So all of these berry bushes, for example, are full of berries, and that really won't help us. So because until you pick these, this will stop collecting source. And especially with these guys being, damaging, they hurt to touch them and stuff. It can be a pain in the Rumposaurus Rex, as they say. So let's talk about how you're going to automate that and how you can actually automate that across different ways. So that's where we get back into the entities here. And so we discussed how to get the different shards and charms and things. Wow, these guys are escape artists, aren't they? Had them in the cages and they got out. So this is going to be the first guy we're going to talk about here is the Starbuncle. You can go back and look at the last video, and it'll explain how you get the shard from the Starbuncle. But once you have a shard, you can use it to summon your very own Starbuncle. And you're going to need some gold nuggets, some source gems, and that Starbuncle shard that you got from them. And you're going to bring that over to your enchanting apparatus here. And you will just put that on the enchanting apparatus. It's 5 of the gold, 3 of the gems, and then you put the shard in the middle, and then magic will happen, as we saw before. And boom, now you have a Starbuncle charm. Okay, and then what you can do with that Starbuncle charm is you can click anywhere on the ground, and that gives you a Starbuncle. Normally this will disappear. We're in creative. The Starbuncle will sit here and kind of do nothing until you command him. But what you can do is you can take your Dominion wand, you can right-click on the Starbuncle, and then you can right-click on a storage container. So this barrel, for example. Sorry, shift right-click on the storage container. And the Starbuncle will start farming for you right away. And he'll be picking up all the items that he finds in the area and dumping them in that container for you. So if you had a couple of these, for example, we'll do the same thing here. Right-click him, and then shift right-click on that, and he should get to work. And let's say we have 3 of them going. So right-click him, shift right-click him, he'll get to work. So between the 3 of these guys, they should in time be able to clear this garden no problem. And the great thing about it is, because they're clearing the garden and storing things for you, now these plants can get growth ticks again, and you'll start getting mana again. And so based on how much you have here, this can be pretty productive for creating source, because they keep it cleared, and then the source builds back up. And so that's the Starbuncle. You can also use the little Magebloom and a feather and make yourself a nice little pet bed, the Magebloom Bed, which, let's say you had a Starbuncle and then you had this bed out, and you could bind that Starbuncle to that bed, and when that Starbuncle doesn't have any tasks, they should go to that bed. There you go. It's not shift right click, it's just right click for the bed. And so when they run out of tasks to do, like let's say the berries were all picked, you could have the beds off to the side, and then they'll go over there and be out of the way, which is kind of nice. If you got a good producing garden, though, a lot of times they'll be busy forever and they won't use that. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that's an item you can make. Okay, so you see we've added some wheat crops here to the garden, and we added some Magebloom here to the garden. And you notice they're not touching it, because these guys will only pick the berries and store the berries. Now, they will take anything that is in the area and store that. So we threw that birch sapling down there, and once we got a free one, see, he picks it up and he'll put it in there. So knowing that, there's something else that we can do. We're going to need a spell for this, though. And so to do that spell, as discussed last time, you're going to make it on the scribe's table, and we'll need a few items here for that. So I'm going to grab these out. We're going to need 3 glyphs unlocked, and you will have to have advanced your book a little bit for this, at least to level 2. And if you come in and right-click your book, your spell book on here, the first one we're going to unlock is AoE, and then that wants a firework star. So if we say select, and you put that guy on there, he'll create that AoE for you. The next one is going to require earth essence and an iron hoe, and that's going to be harvest, which we've actually already unlocked, so I can't do that again. I don't think it'll take it, but we'll try it. Let's see. Yep, no, it will. Okay, so we can make another one just because we made it already. We've already unlocked it, but we can make it again. And so that's the harvest glyph. And then the last one is going to be the grow glyph, which, again, I've already unlocked it, but we'll do that again. And that's going to want 5 bone blocks, 3 seeds, and another earth essence. And then that will give you that glyph. And then once you have those glyphs, let's go ahead and unlock AoE. I think these have already, yeah, we already knew these. Once you have those 3 glyphs, you can make the spell that we're talking about here. And then that's going to be just a matter of opening your book and finding you a slot. Let's go to slot 10. We're going to use touch. We're going to put grow and give that an AoE modifier. And then we're going to put harvest and give that an AoE modifier. And you can call it whatever you want. You can call it the farm spell. It doesn't really matter. We can create that spell. Now we have that spell. And for our own uses, if we come over here and we say do it right here, cast that spell right here, you see it does the harvest for you and it AoEs it. And then if we do it again, you can see it's doing growth on there. So what we're going to need next is to put this on a spell parchment. Okay, so to make a parchment, you basically surround some paper with some Magebloom fibers, which of course we got the Magebloom fibers from farming that Magebloom. That gives you a parchment, and then if you add a couple of source gems to that, you'll get a spell parchment. And so you can take that spell parchment, come on over here, you put the spell parchment on your scribe's table, and then with your book in hand, your spell book in hand, select the spell that you're interested in, and then shift click on that spell table, and you should now have a spell. I just broke my table, but that's okay. You should now have a spell that shows what you have. So touch, grow, AoE, harvest, AoE. So that is correct. And then we're going to use that for the next critter in automation. So the next critter that we're going to make is the Bookwyrm. And to do that, you need 4 pieces of iron and 4 source gems. And just like with the other one, we're going to put these here on that. And then for the middle, you add a book and let the magic happen. And now you have a Bookwyrm charm. And you can take that Bookwyrm charm, and we're going to come over here to our garden, and we're going to right-click on this lectern with that Bookwyrm charm, or shift right-click. And then there'll be more magic that'll happen here, as you can see. And it will transform that into basically the Bookwyrm's home. And now if you look, it says casting nothing, strict mode true. He's at default, he's waiting for instructions. And that's where we're going to take the spell parchment, and we're going to give him these instructions. And now he's casting that spell that we created. Touch, grow, AoE, harvest, AoE. Okay? So that's the he's going to do. But now we're going to take our Dominion one and we're going to shift right click on his home here. And you can do that and you can see we're setting the area. So let's set the area. He'll go all the way up to 17 by 17. So let's make it 17 by 17. And actually we have to right click on him to remove that strict mode. There. Remove strict mode. And now he'll start moving. And what he'll do is he'll go 17 by 17. And he will cast AoE grow in an area. And then AoE harvest in that area. And he'll move from block to block to block doing that, as you can see. So you could have a pretty big garden out here. So each time that the Bookwyrm casts, he's actually going to be pulling mana out of a closest jar to him. And so these jars here should be what he's using, and it costs him very little mana as opposed to you casting. And so usually, depending on the spell that you give him, you're still making way more mana because he's not allowing, you're not getting mana from the growth ticks that he's doing, but that's okay because he will help with these parts of your garden here. And when he gets up to these parts of the garden and he does harvest, well, then your Starbuncles could pick all that up and put it in here into your box. And so between the two of them, you can have a constantly working garden here that keeps up, creates items, and keeps itself harvested and put away. And then depending on what your storage solution is, you can hook this into, storage drawers or Tom's simple storage or whatever you've got. And it's a pretty good system. And it's okay that you're losing growth ticks to what he's doing. You're still getting plenty of growth ticks because these guys will keep the berries pretty much picked down. But there's other things you can actually do because you should see we're starting to get a nice supply of berries here. And so there's other ways to make mana from that. So there are other types of source links that can create source for you. We've been using the agronomic, that's the one that collects growth ticks. But you have the volcanic, which will take burning items that'll burn, like wood and lava and things like that, and it'll make magic. You've got the alchemical one, which will take potions and make magic. You've got the vitalic, which takes basically death. As mobs die, it'll collect from that. Or my personal favorite is the mycelial one. And that's what we've got going on here. That's some gold, some source gems, and a mushroom stew. And then you get the mycelial link. So the mycelial source link, that makes source from food items, things that can be eaten. So let's put a mycelial source link next to this jar here. And then we're going to put a arcane pedestal next to it because I don't want the squirrels to pick up what we're going to do here. We're going to go ahead and grab this wheat, these 3 pieces of wheat these guys have done in here. And then let's run over to this craft table and let's make bread out of that wheat. Boom. Now we've got bread. And now we should be able to take that bread and put that bread here, and it gets consumed by the mycelial source link and puts it here, the magic that it created, into the jar. And so you can envision a system at which, let's say you have a hopper that goes into that pedestal, and you had a bunch of bread. We'll just grab a bunch of bread out and put that in that hopper. What'll happen is he'll add to the pedestal, he'll consume it, and he'll store it into this jar. And so instead of bread, we could use these source berries themselves because they actually are edible. And they make quite a bit of source, actually, on their own. And so you can even take one of these squirrels if you wanted. Let's say we take this guy here. We'll clear his tasks. Let's right-click him, and let's make this hopper his target. So we're going to shift right-click there. And now he should start storing items in that. So if we take these source berries out, and let's say we throw them down in front of him. Let's just toss a bunch of these source berries out so that he gets some of them. I'm just going to chuck them out here. Well, now he should start picking up those and putting them into that hopper, and then that hopper will feed into this. And so this is taking at least a third of these berries, if you consider that that little guy will get a third of them, and store them in here, which then this can then turn that into source and fill it up in here. And so you can see how we're compounding the amount of source we're getting out of here by growth ticks will give to some, and then he'll pick them up, put them in here, and then we burn them into even more here. And then this guy helps everything grow pretty quickly. The one catch is because we've got a mixed garden here, if any wheat drops, wheat is not edible by itself. If seeds drop, they're not really edible by themselves. He could store that in here and gum up this system, but there's a way we can get around that. So you can come over here and you can take a parchment, a blank parchment, before you make it into a scroll parchment. Don't be confused. And you can add a chest to it, and then that creates an item scroll allow. And then there's also an item scroll deny, which basically takes some cobblestone and a blank parchment, and you'll get the item scroll deny. So think of that as your blacklist, but we're going to go with a whitelist for this instance. If we come over here and we get us some berries, and we take this scroll over to our scribes table, sort of like with a spell, if you put that on the scribes table, and then you shift right click with an item, you've added an item that's allowed now. And so if we take that, you can see sourceberry is allowed. Let's say you wanted to allow bread too, for example. And we take that and we shift right click with the bread on there. And now when we pick that up and look, you can see it says sourceberry and bread. So now we can say, okay, where's our little squirrel friend that comes to the hopper? Sometimes it can be hard to tell who's who. And that's another thing you can do. Let's take some red dye, for example. And let's red dye that little guy. That one right there. If we can catch him. Sometimes it's hard to catch him in the garden. There. So now we know who he is. He's our red squirrel. And we take the item scroll allow over to him and right click him with that. Starbuncle will only take these items now. So now if we throw the red dye down right there next to him, he'll just ignore it. But one of the others will come pick it up. But then we don't have to worry about that because he's the one that's going to put stuff into here, right? So if we throw source berries out and we throw bread out, he will pick those up and he will put those into our hopper now. And so now we don't have to worry about him grabbing the wrong items. So now you can have a mixed garden that does lots of stuff, and you can decide specifically which items our little red squirrel will pick up and put in here to be made into source. The other thing to note here is that the mycelial source link will turn the dirt and stuff around it into mycelium, and you'll grow mushrooms and stuff. So just make sure where you're placing that it's not going to ruin your garden. But it's a pretty nice setup. So now we've got squirrels picking our garden. We've got a bookworm casting a spell to help it all grow and harvest the things that won't break on their own. And they will all take care of that. And we've got us a nice mycelial source link, which is burning that for extra source. The next little critter we're going to talk about is the Whirleysprig. And to make a charm for the Whirleysprig, you need a birch sapling, a spruce sapling, an oak sapling, a diamond sapling, a wheat sapling, Magebloom seed, a piece of Magebloom, and a source gem. And you put all of that, just like we did before, onto your enchanting apparatus, and you will get one of these, the Whirleysprig charm. And I'm going to skip doing the magic this time because we've seen it. So what is a Whirleysprig good for? Well, a Whirleysprig will do plants that you can't get using this setup. So trees, for example, wood is, you can set you up a nice tree farm using the Whirleysprigs, basically, is how I use it. So let's say you have an area where you've got some trees and you want these to automatically harvest. Well, what you need to do is you need to have a flower in the area. So let's put a flower right here. And you take your Whirleysprig charm and you cast that, and you'll see it'll change, and it will summon a Whirleysprig after a few seconds. And the Whirleysprig, well, he'll go around and he will basically just hang out in the trees and around the nature, and he will generate these little energy balls that come out of the trees and come into the flower. Think of these as a buffer. The flower has a buffer of how much energy is being created, and that will build up to a certain point, an internal point, and when that is done, it will store things here in the closest storage next to it. So I'm going to move this over just in case. I usually try and keep this as close as possible to the flower as you can get it. So let's put that there. And after a few minutes, we'll give this a few minutes of him hanging out in these trees. Okay, so quite a lot of time has passed and still nothing has happened here. And you're like, okay, am I doing something wrong? And really you're not. What it is that these guys' production is based on their happiness. And their happiness is based on the variety in the area. So if we look at this guy, he says mood happy, which is good, but he can be much better than that. So let's say we put an oak out here and we put an acacia out here, and I'm going to grow those on up real quick. There's our acacia. There's our oak. Let's put a birch and a sapling out here as well. We'll put our birch right there. Get that grown up real quick. There we go. We'll put our... wait, that was our spruce. Let's put our birch over here. And what you're looking for is, I think it's 15 blocks from their source flower. So you want to kind of tighten this up a little bit, kind of keep things around. And then you can put some other flowers out, for example. Let's put a rose bush or two. Something I found that I can do is I can put a piece of kelp in water, and that counts, plus that'll farm you kelp. And then I just like to take the grass itself and just grow it all up so it's nice and wild around the area. Okay? So the more variety in nature, the better. And so this is our little area. Now if we take a look at our Whirly, if we can figure out where he went to. Where'd you go, Mr. Whirly? He hid in the trees over there. Now if we look at him, if we can, he's hiding in the leaves. He's very happy. And you can even get that even better. I think you can get him to extremely happy, right? That'll increase his production, but we still don't have a lot going on here. So the next thing you can do is you can just add more whirligigs or whirlysprigs to the same flower, right? So let's get 4 of these guys going. So now we've got 4 total. They're all very happy, right? Everybody's happy. And let's move all this up out of here. And if we look, they should be any time now producing. Because now they're pulling out of grass, they're pulling out of kelp, they're pulling out of trees, they're pulling out of flowers. And between the 4 of them, we should start seeing some drops here shortly. Okay, so this hasn't been producing and I was getting frustrated, and then I remembered a very important thing. This requires source to work. So even though they're in here and they're happy and they're doing their thing, you need source for this to work. So you want to make sure you put down a source jar next to your Whirleysprig blossom, and then some form of source needs to come in. In our case, I'm going to put down the mycelial source link like we used before, and we'll do that whole setup where we feed it berries and it starts producing source, right? Let's get some more berries here. We'll just fill this guy up with berries real quick so it keeps running. And make sure you're feeding your setup source, because if you're not, it won't produce. And now that we're feeding it source, boom, you can see we're starting to make all the things in the area. Saplings and logs and sticks and flowers. We should get kelp eventually. This is going to create mushrooms around it, and so we should start to see mushrooms show up in here, and all the stuff that's plant wise that you plant, boom, you're extremely happy and you have multiples of them should be what you need to get this running. So that would be the Whirleysprig, and that would be how you would farm logs and all of that kind of stuff. Our next little critter we're going to look at is the Drygmy, and he happens to be one of my favorites. And you're going to use source gems, the shard that you get from wild Drygmies, a wheat seed, a carrot, wheat, and apples. And you put those on your enchanting setup, and you'll get this here charm, the Drygmy charm. And the thing I like about the Drygmy charm is this is a mob farm. And so I've got a little setup over here already that I've put in. And you can see I've got a sheep, and I've got a chicken, and a pig, and a cow, and a panda here. I had a goat, but apparently goats can climb out of cages and run away. And you're going to want to have this is a mossy cobblestone, and I believe you want to have it within 10 or 15. I think it's 10. 10, same with those guys. I think I might have said 15 over there, but I think the mobs want to be within 10 of their home. So you take your Drygmy shard and you cast that on a mossy cobblestone, or your Drygmy charm, I should say, not the shard, and you get a little Drygmy. And Drygmies also have a happiness on them. They won't really show it. Like, you can't really see like you can with them, but their happiness comes from the variety of critters in the area. And so right now we've got these guys. These are who we have in the area here. And what they do is they farm drops off of these guys like you would kill them, except without killing them. And again, make sure you have a source set up just like we did before. Don't have that mistake again. But if you have a source set up, that'll power this. And then you need a place to put this. So let's put a barrel here next to it. And then what you'll start to see happen here is we should start to get drops from these guys. And I'm going to go ahead and add more so you can have more on one. This is called the Drygmy henge. That's their home. And you can have more of these guys per henge. And again, just like with the Whirleysprigs, this is a internal buffer that they're getting. So the happier they are, meaning the more variety of entities that you have, and the more of them there are, the quicker this henge will start to produce items. And so right now it's not super great because there's a few critters in here, but we can make this better. But what really makes this powerful is farming other mobs. So let's get some eggs. Let's get a zombie egg. Let's get a skeleton egg. Let's get a creeper egg. And let's get an enderman egg. Okay. And you're going to want to make sure you have name tags for this. So let's just put a name tag here. And we're going to call everyone Mike. Everyone is going to be Mike. So our name tag is for Mike, right? And if we put a zombie in this cage here that I've created, and then let's name him Mike. And we put a Skelly here and name him Mike. And put a creeper here and we'll name him Mike. And we'll put an enderman here. Everyone is Mike. So we've got Mike, the zombie, the skeleton. Everybody's Mike, right? After a minute, you'll see these guys will start to walk over there, because they like to walk up close to these mobs. They actually like to get close to these guys too, but I've got the cage here to keep them from walking right up to them. These guys will walk right up to them. And now if we look, you can see we're generating items now. So we've got some raw chicken, pork, beef. I don't even want to know how they got the raw meat off of these poor animals. We've got wool. We should start to see zombie flesh and enderman pearls and skeleton drops like bones and arrows and creeper, so like gunpowder and stuff. And let's just go a little crazy. Let's get a bunch of these guys out here so you can see this really start to happen. Let's even go nuts and let's get a blaze out here. Say you went to the nether and you've got a blaze. Let's get a pig. What are they called? Zombie pigman. A piglin. Let's put him in there. So he's in there. And you can see we are now getting Enderman pearls. We're getting bamboo from the panda that we've got. There's bone. And they'll also drop these. So the happier they are, the more you'll start to see these drop, these experience gems. And these are just basically straight experience. You can pick these up and you can consume them. Let's say we were in survival. You can consume these and you can see you get experience from that. And so this is how you set up a entity farm. See, they're right up in there. The mobs don't really care. I like to make sure that the head is sealed up because otherwise the Enderman will jump away. So as long as there's no line of sight for anybody, they should just chill here. And then your Drygmies can work them. So it depends on what you have in your pack for how you capture these. Like the pack that I'm playing, they have cages that you can capture these in. However you can capture them, that's what you want to do, and then you set up your Drygmies, and you'll start to get farms. So there's a gold nugget coming in from the piglin. You name it, it's starting to happen. And so that's your mob farm for your Drygmies. And just to be 100% clear about this, you need to name tag all of the mobs that you're farming, or they will despawn. That's a vanilla mechanic, but I just wanted to be super clear about that. Make sure all of your mobs, except for your animals, they don't do the same rules, but any of these mobs, they need a name tag, otherwise they will despawn, and you'll lose all these wonderful drops that you're starting to get from everything. The other thing is you can get greater experience gems, which are the same thing as these, so you just get more of them. So the happier these guys are, the more variety you have, the better this farm will go. Next, we're going to talk about the Wixie, and the Wixie uses an emerald, the Wixie shard, a spruce sapling, a crafting table, and a brewing stand. Throw those on your enchanting setup, and then you get the Wixie charm, which I already have in my hand here. What a Wixie's good for is automating tasks for you, or automating crafting. Let's say you wanted to have an auto crafter. So what you're going to do is you are going to come over here to a cauldron, and I've gone ahead and set up creative source jars here, but same deal with these. You have to have source coming in. So in my case, I'm using creative source just to save space and time here. Let's go ahead and get some more oak logs out here. And you're going to take your Wixie charm and put it on a cauldron. And when you do that, the cauldron will transform into a Wixie cauldron, and the Wixie will hang out above it. Adorable little chibi looking thing. And what a Wixie will do is automatically craft stuff for you. So let's say you wanted to make planks, right? And you've got a chest next to her with logs in it. If you right click on her cauldron with the planks, she'll say, okay, well, I see that there are logs in that chest next to me, and I can use those to make planks. And so using source, she will start pulling the items out of that chest, and she will make planks. And they can do, multiple things. It doesn't have to just be that. Let's say you wanted an iron sword. For example, you wanted to make iron swords. So let's take one of those out. Let's take some iron ingots out. And let's get some sticks out here, just so you can see. And if that had iron ingots and sticks in it, and you said, you know what, make me swords instead, you could right-click that on there. And she'll start pulling that out. And take her a minute because she's got to get the 2 items and then the 3rd item, and she'll craft an iron sword, and boom, and you can see she'll start spitting that stuff out on the ground there, which is why we've got this set up here so I could show you. Let's turn this into a Wixie one. What I've done here is just hoppers into a chest, and then that way anything that she's crafting, let's say we want to do the plank thing, let's put the logs in there, we'll put the planks in there. Oop, I messed up. We don't want that one. Had that one under there on accident. And we tell her to do planks for us. Well, of course, she'll start pulling logs out, and she'll craft planks. And of course, she spits it up there. Why would she not do that? Most of the time, that's not going to be the case. They're going to spit it down below them. You know what? She should turn around here now, because I think that was the last log in there. There you go. And so she'll start spitting those out, and then your hoppers will pick those up. So that's kind of a way to catch the stuff. The other good thing that a Wixie will do is they will autocraft potions for you. So we're going to turn this one. We've got some potion jars here. They're like source jars. but a potion jar is crafted thusly. You have to use an abjuration essence on a source jar. And what they will do is they'll auto-craft potions for you. So I have 3 potion jars here, and I've got a source for her to use. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to start with the awkward potion. And so we're going to right-click the awkward potion on her. And she's going to start pulling the nether wart that I've got in here. See, I've got some nether wart in here out. And she supplies the water. So you don't even have to worry about water. She'll supply the water, and she'll fill any jars around her with that potion. So she's making the awkward potion. That's your base potion. You know, you're going to need that. So you have a jar full of that. It's 12% full. So let's take a bottle here. And let's say, okay, that's fine. We've got awkward potion. But we already had one, so we don't need that. What we want to do now is, let's say we want to do a night vision potion, right? So you would have to have one to start with. So let me grab a night vision potion out real quick. So here's a night vision, 3-minute. And we have golden carrots in here. And there's no awkward potion in here, just the golden carrots. But there is awkward potion here in this jar because she's been crafting it, right? Well, let's now click on that. And so instead of making the awkward potion, she'll start pulling the golden carrots out. And you can see she's going to use the awkward potion here in this jar to craft that. And boom, now we have night vision going on over here. And so that's really cool. And let's say we wanted to do the night vision, the 8-minute version. So we have one of those, right? And we're going to click that on there. And so now she should start pulling the redstone out of here and then using the potion that's in here. Boom. And now we should start seeing the 8-minute version show up here, which there it is, 3% full. So this is a way, if you surrounded her with a bunch of potion jars, you could just have these store all your potions and she'll auto craft them for you. You don't have to worry about blaze powder to power your brewing station, and you don't have to worry about water. She'll take care of all of that. You just tell her which potion to do and she'll start doing it. And so that's your Wixie. Last and certainly not least is going to be the Amethyst Golum. And so an Amethyst Golum is a special case. To get its charm, you have to set up a ritual brazier near some amethyst blocks. And if you take a tablet of awakening, which I didn't set that up over here already, which looks like this. There's some archwood, some saplings, and some source gems. And you put that on there and activate that. It will awaken a golem. And now we have an Amethyst Golum. And now if we want to set his home, what we got to do is we got to right click on him and right click on a block. And you can see when he's got a home now, what he will do is he will increase the growth of amethyst in the area. And he will also actually make new budding amethyst blocks. So all of these amethyst blocks will become budding amethyst blocks as long as he's in the area. And then we can also right click on him and right click or shift right click on the barrel, and he'll consider that his home. And he should start storing in there, I believe. Let's give him all that. So he picks all that up there. Yep, see, and now he'll start storing in there. And so you can find you a nice little amethyst node. You can even build your own, really. You could bring the blocks of amethyst home, summon him in, give him a home, and then he'll start collecting amethyst for you. And before too long, all of these should go budding. And you could probably set these up even so that all 6 sides are showing, because you get more amethyst that way, and he'll go to town on it. And so that's your Amethyst Golum. And so that's automation in Ars Nouveau using entities, using the little critters that they've added to the pack. Super useful, great for farming materials of all kinds. There's a lot you can do with it that we didn't cover. These were just the basics of using them. I'll let you get creative on like what spells maybe you could give the Bookwyrm to make the Bookwyrm do, and how you can automate all this stuff together. There's other things to be aware of, such as spell turrets in the pack, which you can assign spells to the turrets like you would do the Bookwyrm, and they'll cast spells for you that way. Put them on timers so they cast every so often. There's a lot more to dig into there, but I think that's good, and it lets you really get started on how you can use Ars Nouveau to automate your base and to collect and farm all your materials and conquer the world. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please do me a favor, hit the like button down below. Maybe subscribe to the channel, and definitely comment. Let me know that you're out there. It helps me feel like doing this is worth it if I can hear from you. So until next time, y'all have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.